Great to have you with us. Brett Geymann, former rep, businessman, my special guest for a quick segment today. Brett, first of all, good morning, sir.
Good morning, Moon, and I'm glad Brandon doesn't let the mic be live before the show comes on the air.
Well, by the way,
we want to keep our jobs.
I've always said, though, if we tape what we do off the air and put it on the air, ratings would skyrocket. Of course,
I don't think so.
Hey, of course, Howard Stern and Walter Johnson would go to last place. Nah, we just having a good time. Anyway, Brett, thanks for joining us, and I appreciate it. Little Brett, I thought about you, and the reason I called you was me and you, people don't understand, we both small business owners, but we both married, we both had kids, we both have to buy our own insurance, and we know that insurance is both running us over $2,000 a month out of our pocket. That's just a fact. Jack, I called and asked Brett, I said, Brett, have you heard about how much yours is going up? I hadn't heard yet on mine. I think I'll get that either next month or in October. But you mentioned the fact that you're hearing in the teens, but in some people it's going to be high as 26%. Is that correct?
That's correct. That's what my agent is telling me. It's mine is going to go up in the low teens, and then she was telling me that some of the clients that they have is going up 20, 25, 26%. If you're in the individual market, and Moon, it's just a bad place to be. That's where I land. That's where you're landing. I mean, I know you're big money, but I'm not. But still, you're an independent, individual insurance market guy. You don't qualify for a subsidy or any of the programs that are out there, and you're not in a part of a big business that offers a group plan that is affordable. So you're just you fall in the cracks, and that's where I am. When I saw the article on the news feed last night about the number of people who are now insured that previously hadn't been under the new Medicaid expansion, my question was, well, what about me? What about people like me? What have they done for the individual market other than triple the cost of the premiums?
But, that's not what the article's about. The article, by the way, this was a survey that was done by LSU. I don't cut LSU, but the fact is LSU, they're doing this on the taxpayer dollar, and they're doing it on the taxpayer dollar for the governor. And so the governor and the media and the advocate and everybody else, and I think you mentioned on social media, they're going crazy on how great this is, when the fact of the matter is it's a report by government for government. And that's what frustrates me, is that I'm tickled to death that people have insurance. That's really good. But they don't talk about the fraud, the abuse, the changes we need to make. Not at all. They just write glorified stories. But for you and me, and this is a lot of people like us out there, we don't qualify for all that. We're getting hammered with health care. And matter of fact, I don't know how much longer I'll be able to pay for mine. I've been saying that. And I believe the day's going to come, they're going to jack it up so much, I'm going to say I'm out the market.
Oh, Moon, there's no question. It's we're treading water, trying to keep making those payments. And, when it's double your mortgage and now, more like 2.5 times my monthly mortgage, it's just getting ridiculous. And this has all happened in the last couple of years. I mean, the increase has gone up beyond what we can even think about being able to sustain. And so the question for us, and we're both about the same age, is how long can we hang on?
I know, 48 years old.
I don't think the answer. I don't.
I was at 48 years old. We're almost 50 years old, man. That's tough.
Yeah, you wish you were only 48. But it's just a real life problem, and it's not being addressed anywhere, nationally or at the state level, because unfortunately, we are a very small part of the market. I think we make up about 15% of the market, so there's not a lot of push out there for the government to deal with that. And the problem is, when you let government take over health care, they might solve one problem by getting some uninsured folks insurance, but at the same time, they distort the whole marketplace for people like you and me who are out there trying to compete and find a good deal. And there's just not one. And by the way, the insurance that I'm paying for is terrible insurance. I hope I don't ever have to use it because it'll break me.
But let me tell you something. The Medicaid, I've been around it. Medicaid is not that great. What they're bragging about is a joke, and here's what I mean. First of all, Bill Edwards cannot brag about the economy. They don't care about jobs. They don't care about the private sector. They don't care about our migration. They don't care about the things that really are important. They care about making sure people get freebies, and we all know there's a lot of people getting this that don't deserve it. That's a fact. That's a lot of people getting Medicaid that don't deserve it. We know there's abuse in the system. We don't talk about that. We get LSU to write a report and brag about it. And that's what's kind of hilarious in a way. They calling this the job creator. Unemployment numbers came out. The federal government, the country went down to 3.8 to 3.9. We went up to 4.9, the highest increase, and exactly. 4 months in a row. 4 months in a row that the job market has gotten worse, and they're sitting there bragging about freebies. And here's the point I want to make to you, Brett. And this is giveaways. We making it easier to be poor. We get more people hooked on government health care. This is what nobody wants to talk about, and it's funny. Everything they give away, people line up for. Like if we wanted our state to have more people driving F-150s, go start giving them away and watch what's the percentage of people with F-150s will go up tremendously because we gave it away. That don't make any sense.
You're absolutely right, and my concern and my fear is that we can't turn back now because they've started a program that I don't know if you can ever fix because you're going to have to take something away now. And you know how it is in the political arena when you try to take something away. Yep. The pressure becomes immense, and it's hard to do. And you saw that with the newly elected Congress under the new president that we have now when they were going to fix health care and they couldn't get enough votes to do anything because the pressure when you try to take something away is tremendous. But again, you and I and everybody in the individual market, everybody that owns their own small business, which is a lot of people, but a lot of people own their own business, and they have 4 or 5 employees, they're treading water right now. And by the way, if you need to hire somebody, you can't afford to because your costs have gone up to do business so high that you're scared to go out there and bring another employee in. Yeah. And so that's the reason why unemployment is at 4.9 and the rest of the country is going down. That's the reason why we have all these bad economic indicators because we're not doing anything to help out the small business market in this state.
By the way, the governor, in his LSU report, this is the second time it came out. I think they do it twice a year. It's the second time it came out that they went run out and touted it. And I noticed you told me all over Twitter they bragging about, look at this, look at these people on insurance now. And by the way, these are freebies. If the federal government decides they're going to cut Medicaid, we're only going to pay you 80%. What do you think's going to happen now? Because like you said, we're not going to take it away.
That's something you and I have talked about for the last year and a half is that the carrot that they put in front of us to get people to get us to take the Medicaid expansion program and put more people on the insurance was that the federal government was going to pay the majority of the bill. Yep. And so they can say, well, actually it's saving us money because now these uninsured folks that we were having to take care of now have insurance. Mm-hmm. The problem is, what about 2021? 2022, when the federal government says, okay, that program's now over, we're back to the 60-40 match instead of the 95-5 match, and now the state of Louisiana is on the hook for about $1 billion.
Well, that's tax increases. That's tax increases on me and you who are already paying over high premiums.
Yeah, no one is talking about that, and again, no one's talking about the individual market like you and I. They're just touting this, hey, we got all these people now that are insured. But what about all the rest of the numbers? And there's another part of that survey and that study that should have been printed in the paper, printed on the news feed, about the rest of that data that you and I are talking about now. It's not all that great. Yes, I'm with you. I think it's great that more people have insurance. I think that's a great thing. But it's at the expense of all the rest of us.
Yeah, the other thing is
not going to work.
When you go to the governor and he starts saying we're saving hundreds of millions of dollars. Where the heck did we get that from? I think the Medicaid expansion has laid our GDP out as negative for the last 2 years. I think this is why. Then he says creating thousands of jobs of expansion. He's calling this a job creator. And this is my take, Brett, and I may be wrong. Why don't we just all go on Medicaid? If it's such a great job creator, put us all on Medicaid, we create all them jobs, and we don't have a booming economy, right? Is that not how it works?
If you go with that theory, yes. The problem is they're not telling you the rest of the story. Because if it's a job creator, why are we at 4.9 and everybody else is going down? Why are we the one state that is rising in unemployment when everybody else is going down? So there's more to the story. And more to the story is they're doing nothing to help the blue-collar, middle-income families with small businesses, and they're not creating a landscape for businesses to thrive right now. And so they have to hang their hook on Look what we've done with Medicaid expansion. That's all they have.
Yeah, good point. You know, Brett, our out-migration, I'm getting people to call. I heard from them yesterday, and I've been hearing from them of how their family members who graduated college, went to Texas, Tennessee, Georgia, whatever, to get jobs. And we're losing the best and brightest, but I still stand by what I'm telling you. We're making it easy to be poor. We're making more people be more dependent on the government. That's the kind of people that's going to stay here. That's what it's going to bring. Come here, man. You get free this and free that. People will move here for that. Not understanding that the leavers, the people that are migrating, are best and brightest. These are the ones that have babies and they want to work. And I'm sorry, this is not a race issue. This is just a fact of what's happening in the state of Louisiana.
No doubt. And look, this is my challenge to the current administration in Louisiana is if you want to brag about the number of people that you now have insured that previously were uninsured, you go right on ahead. But my challenge to them is you need to fix the rest of the market. You need to fix the rest of the individual market, the small business market, so that we can grow, so that we can hire people, so that we can continue to make it. And like you said, in another year or two, folks like you and I are going to be without insurance. I know a lot of people my age that have had insurance all their life, Moon, and they've got families, and they've had to drop their coverage because they just can't afford it. And what about those folks? And until this governor and this administration addresses that, I don't want to really hear about the expansion of Medicaid and how it's helping folks. I want to hear about the whole market and not just that. And I agree with you. They're only touting that because right now the rest of the economic numbers are terrible.
Well, they came out with this 6 months ago, bragging about it again. Here it is again because they looked at unemployment, job creation, and all that stuff is not there. And they know it's not there. So they run back to Medicaid. And then you looked at Twitter, and they freaking out happy. Oh, man, look, this is so good. And yet, how do we pay for it? Why don't we check out fraud? Why don't we check out who shouldn't be on it? And like you said, the federal government cut this thing to 60-40. Then what do we do? Because they're going to come after you and me, who are already paying higher premiums, and get more taxes from us.
No question. And again, what are the consequences of a 10 to 15% individual market in Louisiana now becoming uninsured because they can no longer afford to have insurance? Those numbers have to be measured in that LSU study, as well as of how that affects job growth for small businesses, because those insurance costs come out of the income stream of the families that own those businesses, and folks are scared to hire people right now because of those costs. I don't think LSU took any of that into consideration, and so therefore I think the study is bogus.
Yeah. All right, Brett, we appreciate it, man. We'll do it again very, very soon. We still love you. I'm not going to tell you how much, but we still love you. We want to jump gears and talking a little bit about jury, the way we convict people. Ed Tarpley, who was a former DA in Grant Parish back in the 90s. First of all, Ed, he's a lawyer. First of all, it's good to see you again, sir.
Good to see you.
Pleasure.
Yes, indeed, Moon. You and I have been friends for many, many years.
You claimed it, huh? I
remember back in the old days when it was just me and Jim Spillers listening to you on the radio. So
I know. By the way, we don't have many more now.
I know. The audience was pretty low back in those days.
I count Brandon as one of my listeners, so I can have a few more. I didn't get to 10 if Brandon listens. Brandon's got to listen. I pay him.
I know it. That's great. But look, man, you come.
By the way, you know Jim passed away.
I know. Yes, absolutely.
Jim was one of those fighters that you didn't want to be against him.
I know.
Jim was one of those heavy fighters. We lost him, I think, last year.
Yeah, well, he and I worked together on many, many campaigns, and he was a great friend of both yours and mine. So we're sorry to miss him.
Well, let's jump into this because this is
sure.
This is I want you to start from the beginning. This is something you actually worked on for a long, long time, dealing with jury. How we come up with convictions, especially in big cases. Talk a little bit about where we're going and what do you think is going to happen.
Yeah, absolutely. In fact, I first mentioned this to you probably about 3 years ago. Mm-hmm. I remember one time you were up at Hicks and Hopkins. I said, look, this is going to be a big issue in the years to come. And I remember telling you about it then. And you were interested in it. And I've kind of kept you up to date as we've moved along. This is a constitutional amendment. It's going to be amendment number 2 on the ballot in November. And what it will do, it will restore the unanimous jury verdict to Louisiana. When the framers of the Constitution wrote the Constitution and the Bill of Rights back in the 1700s, they placed in it the right to trial by jury, which had pre-existed the Constitution all the way back to colonial times. And the right to jury trial consisted of a unanimous verdict. In other words, before someone could be deprived of their property or their liberty, the jury all had to agree. That had to be unanimous.
11, 12, whatever it was, there had to be a unanimous.
That's right, had to be unanimous. And again, this goes all the way back to colonial times. And so in Louisiana, from 1803 to 1880, we had the same law that every other state had, which was that in order to be convicted of a felony, all 12 of the jurors had to be. It had to agree. It had to be unanimous. But what happened in 1880 in the post-Reconstruction era, the law was changed to allow a person to be convicted with a 9-3 vote. In other words, only 9 jurors had to vote to convict someone. And this change took place in 1880. It was during the Jim Crow era. We know that the purpose of the law at that time clearly was to make it easier to convict African Americans, because what we saw happening all across the South was in the 1880s and 1890s, the Jim Crow laws were put in place throughout the South. Now, what happened for us was that only Louisiana of the southern states did this. Only Louisiana did this. Right? No other southern state, removed the unanimous jury requirement. And so, as the years went by, it just became accepted. And in 1898, it was placed in the Constitution in 1898. So that's how it got into the Constitution, was the Constitutional Convention of 1898. And so as the years went by, the origin of the law was lost to history. It's the only way I can say it. It was just accepted and forgotten. It was one of those strange, quirky things in Louisiana that, everybody said, well, Louisiana's different and this is one of those laws. But what's amazing is that the idea that somehow we had lost the full protection of the Sixth Amendment didn't seem to make any difference for all of these years. But in the 70s and 80s and 90s, we started to see some effort to ask the Supreme Court to look at this law to change it. And the Supreme Court chose not to do that. And so,
when you say Supreme Court, you're talking about not Louisiana Supreme Court.
The U.S. Supreme Court. That's exactly right.
Good.
There was a decision in 1972. It's called the Apodaca versus Oregon decision. It was a really strange decision. The vote was 4-1 to 4. Lewis Powell was the one. And what they decided is that unanimous juries were required in federal courts, but they were not required in state courts. And so the decision has been criticized for years by scholars and other judges and a lot of commentators, but the Supreme Court has thus far shown no interest in overturning Apodaca.
Okay, can I stop you real quick? Why hadn't we, as citizens, elected officials, why is this taking so long to, say, get on the ballot? There's never been another ballot shot at this?
No.
60s, 70s, 80s, nothing?
Well, let me tell you what happened. In 1973, there was an effort at the Constitutional Convention in 1973 to change the law. And a man from Alexandria actually led the fight. He's still alive. He's in his mid-80s, Chris Roy Sr., who was a law partner of Camille Gravel at the time, famous political
I know both names.
Famous political leader in Louisiana at the time, very close to Governor Edwin Edwards at the time. Chris Roy led an effort to change the law at the 1973 Constitutional Convention. It was hotly opposed by the district attorneys at that time, and so a compromise was reached. And they changed the law from 9 out of 3 to 10 out of 3. 10 out of 12. 9 out of 12 to 10 out of 12. And so that's what happened, and that's what went on the ballot in 74, which was approved.
I wish he was here. God bless C.B. Ferguson, who helped write the Constitution. I wonder what his take was on that. I don't know. I don't know, but I would have loved to know.
Let me tell you what it's an interesting a bit of history, and we could probably spend the whole hour talking about it. But at the Constitutional Convention, you have to remember, in 1973, Governor Edwin Edwards was probably at the peak of his power. Yeah. You had Bubba Henry was the chairman of the Constitutional Convention. Victor Busey, the state AFL-CIO leader, was very powerful at that time.
By the way, CB was never an Edwards fan, so I'm taking it he was on the right side with y'all. I'm just throwing this out as an open deal.
Was CB, I know CB was working there. There were actually, this is really interesting. Look, I was just a kid in 1973. I was a student at LSU, and actually,
Brandon wouldn't even have thought in 73.
That's right. Well, actually,
but go ahead.
Actually, Moon, I was at the Constitutional Convention. I worked as a sergeant at arms.
Wow.
Yeah, I was.
So you remember CB back in the day?
I remember seeing CB years ago, absolutely, and a lot. I mean, Lee Hargrave from LSU was one of the leaders. There were many great people at that convention. It was really an all-star cast of Louisiana leaders, politicians, business people. A lot of people were involved there. And so it was, let me say this, the issue was important, but I think Governor Edwin Edwards at the time was concerned about making sure he had a coalition together that would pass the Constitution. And so
if you put it out there and don't pass,
that's right. Well, he certainly wanted to make sure that he could get that Constitution back. And as you recall, in 1974, actually it was hotly contested by the voters. I mean, it wasn't a slam dunk that the new Constitution was going to pass.
If they do another one, which between you and me, we can get on that too. But I'm against it at this point. But Ed, let's go back to this.
But the point was there was an effort to change it in 73, but it failed.
Okay, but it looks like to me, and I'm going to do this and we'll take a break. It looks like to me the momentum is finally big time behind what y'all are trying to do. It looks like to me that's taking place now, what I'm hearing.
Well, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Look, the Louisiana Republican Party, the Louisiana Democratic Party, and even the Louisiana Libertarian Party have all endorsed this. We have across the political spectrum from right to left, Republicans to Democrats, and all points in between, you have people that are supporting this. It's received tremendous coverage in the press.
Yeah.
What's that?
That's all I'm hearing is what
well, no, that's exactly right. And I think here's the point. Look, 48 other states require unanimity. Texas, Mississippi, Arkansas, Alabama, all the southern states require unanimous juries. And, you know, Justice Scalia, who I think was probably the greatest conservative justice ever to sit on the court, wrote in a case in the 90s, the Blakely case, he said, before the government should be able to take away the liberty of a person, they should suffer the modest inconvenience of having their decision approved by the unanimous verdict of 12 of their neighbors and peers.
Ed Tarpley, my special guest. You got a question, 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. Let me ask the question, and this is the big thing I notice on any kind of amendments. I know there's the people that you're saying vote for the amendment, and I would think that would be most people. I don't see any opposition yet. Is there any opposition? I'm talking about organized. I'm not talking about one person. I'm saying organized opposition.
No, we have not seen any organized opposition at all.
By the way, it makes a difference, and you know you've been in politics before.
Absolutely.
If you don't have organized opposition, pro or con, it doesn't matter, and you getting your message out there, that should be a good thing for this side of the equation.
Well, our goal, Moon, is to educate the public about why Amendment Number 2 is so important. You know, this law in Louisiana is 138 years old. And so Louisiana citizens have a historic opportunity to change the law. And you know what's really great about this? This is what constitutional government is all about. What is great is the fact is that the citizens get to change the law. I mean, the legislature passed the constitutional amendment, but the people get to vote on it. Well, and this is incredible that the citizens are going to get to change the law.
Well, I wish people felt as passionate about changing the law in a bunch of other areas too.
Well, let me. I
know you can do one at a time, but you're making the point of why we don't need a constitutional convention to change anything else. We could change things if they'll write it up properly and put it in there. You know, they talk a lot about all this money we got dedicated. Well, that was dedicated by us too. I know what you're saying. People can participate in this. You're saying this is one thing that's bringing everybody together in Louisiana because you're talking about this group and that group, totally different spectrums coming together.
And the reason is because this is about liberty. This is about liberty. And everybody's for liberty. This is about protecting our liberty. You know, the function of the jury is to stand between the government and the citizen. Mm-hmm. The function of the jury is to protect the citizen from the overreach of government, because the the jury's not an arm of the government. The jury is composed of citizens. Sure. Just regular people get to serve on the jury. And that was the genius of the whole jury system. You know, it's traces its origins all the way back to the Magna Carta in England in 1215. I mean, we're talking about something that's 800 years old that was active in all the colonial governments before the Constitution was adopted. So, I mean, when you think about how great the jury system is and how important it is for citizens to be the ones to determine whether a person's liberty is taken away or not, well, then it's really amazing that we're getting to do this. So, look, let me just say, Moon, there's no other state in the country having this conversation right now. Now, maybe they are in Oregon, I don't know, but what we're doing in Louisiana is really breathtaking, and it's a historic moment for our state.
All right, Brandon, if we can, let's take a phone call, and we got to jack it up. Ted, you don't need one. Ted in Lafayette, go, Ted.
Okay, I have two things to point out to you. First of all, why don't we go to 11 to 1? What about the net in the room, you know? You know what I'm saying? All
right, 11 to 1. Let me throw one at you, Ed. I'm just throwing this just to throw it at you. Remember when Edwards was tried? They had 12 juries. One of them, they thought nutted up, and they kicked him off. And that ended up being 11-0. I think that was still 11-0 to 10-1, but I think it was 11-0, but it was one jury. Just 11 to 1. I know what you're saying on unanimous, and I'm agreeing with you, but just his question was 11 to 1.
Oh, no, it's an absolutely good question. Here's the reason. Under the unanimous jury system, the jurors have to consider the minority viewpoint. In other words, if one juror or two jurors really do not think that the state has proved its case beyond a reasonable doubt, or they think that a witness has lied, or that the evidence is weak, then they have to all the jurors have to listen to them. You have to consider the minority viewpoint. And the fact of the matter is that if a one juror votes against conviction, the person is not acquitted. They don't walk away a free person. They are still under indictment. The charges are still in existence. All the prosecution has to do is come back and retry them. You know, in the Bill Cosby case, the first trial ended in a hung jury. It was a mistrial. Correct. The vote was 11 to 1. But the prosecutor there came back the next year, tried Bill Cosby, and he was convicted.
Correct. They did. All right. Rick in Shreveport, question or comment for Mr. Ed Tarpley.
Yeah, Moon, I just question, does this unanimity extend to juries and civil cases as well?
Okay, are you asking? Okay, civil cases.
No, this does not apply to civil cases. This is only criminal cases.
Well, if it's good for the goose, why ain't it good for the gander?
Well, because in criminal cases, you're talking about taking away a person's liberty or their property or their life. You know, in Louisiana, we already require unanimity for 6-person juries. I mean, Louisiana has kind of a schizophrenic system. If it's a 6-person jury, the U.S. Supreme Court said it has to be unanimous, so it has to be 6 out of 6. And if it's a capital case, it has to be 12 out of 12. So we require unanimity for capital cases and for 6-person juries, but all the other felonies in the middle can be disposed of on a 10-2 verdict. So what we're talking about here deals with criminal cases, and that's what the Sixth Amendment is all about. It's that a person cannot be deprived of their liberty without a unanimous vote of the jury, and that's what we've had all the way since back to colonial times. In fact, John Adams famously said that it was the unanimity of the jury that preserves the rights of mankind. So if you look at what the framers had to say, James Madison, John Adams, Thomas Jefferson, they all were in favor of unanimity because that's what they had in the colonial days, even before the Constitution was written.
All right, appreciate the call. Let's go to David in Swartz. David, how you doing? Question and comment from Mr. Ed Tarpley.
Yes, I have a question regarding the tax work here in Louisiana. I've come up with an idea for Governor Edwards about how he can earn more money or take more money.
Well, hold up, brother. We just have to hold that because that's not what we're talking about. Ed, so I'll say it again. I know Blake Miguez, I think, is doing a video for y'all, Representative Miguez.
Yes, he is. Representative Miguez is doing a video for us, and we've got a lot of other conservatives that are actively involved. Colonel Rob Maness has been out front on this issue since day one. We've got leaders, conservative leaders in the Senate, conservative leaders in the House of Representatives. Representative Sherman Mack, who is the chairman of the House Criminal Justice Committee. He handled this bill on the floor of the House of Representatives.
Did it get and I didn't follow it as much as you did, but did it get a pretty unanimous vote in the House and Senate?
It got a huge vote. In the Senate, the vote was 27 to 10.
Over 2/3.
That's right. But in the House, the vote was 84 to 15. It was a huge vote. By the time we got to the House, the momentum had already built.
I'm going to ask again, during the Senate, what was the argument against it if you had a third of the people?
I think there were very few arguments against it. I think the main argument that people use is the efficiency argument that, well, with a 10-2 verdict system, you can get people convicted quicker. I mean, but I think that's a terrible reason. It shouldn't be about how fast you can convict somebody. It ought to be about whether or not the jury has found somebody guilty beyond a reasonable doubt.
I only got a minute left. You mentioned the district attorneys were against it during Edwin Edwards' days. Are the district attorneys against it now?
No, they are not. They have taken a neutral position, and the reason is because
so they're basically staying out of it.
That's right. Many district attorneys in the state are in favor of this change. There are many that are opposed. So they took a neutral position, but because in the Louisiana District Attorneys Association, in order for them to take a position on an issue, they have to be unanimous.
Well, I appreciate it, Ed. Once again, we'll do it again. I'm sure we'll see y'all again. Best of luck. Like I said, I still think the momentum is on y'all side.
Well, let me tell you something. You got groups like the Louisiana Family Forum, Americans for Prosperity. You got a lot of conservative groups, faith-based groups, the Louisiana State Bar Association, the Louisiana Catholic Bishops, on and on and on. So many groups have come out in favor of Amendment Number 2. We just need to get the word out to people. Amendment Number 2 is really important. People need to understand that this gives us a chance to move from the outside the mainstream of American legal tradition. What we have right now bears no resemblance to what the framers of our Constitution intended. What we have right now is an aberration. It's an anomaly. And what we can do right now is we can restore the full protection of the right to trial by jury to Louisiana.
We'll do it again. Thank you, Ed Tarpley. Hi, hello. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. By the way, if you are interested in going to catch some redfish, talk to Captain Norman. Captain Norman he sent me some beautiful pictures of redfish. The speckled trout hadn't been doing a whole lot. He catches a few in there. Every now and then have a good speckled trout trip. But if you're interested in catching redfish, you need to call Captain Norman. Or go to A-Spec Charters, and he will take you out in Hackberry, and I promise you, if the Cap takes you out there, you're going to have a good time. A-Spec Charters. He knows what he's doing. He can take multiple people and use multiple boats. You need to make sure that you call Captain Norman, 337-884-0656. Look, fall fishing out there can be the best. And the specs are going to start running again, and so are the flounder. But it's still a little ways from that. But if you want to go catch some redfish, it's catching limits sometimes 2 times a day. So I'm just telling you, Captain Norman's you got. Make the call now. Book Captain Norman, 337-884-0656. You can be glad you did. Not a better guy to go fishing with, unless you're fishing with me. Brandon's going, oh, my God. Well,
just rolling my eyes, man.
Yes, I know, Brandon. That's what you're doing when payday ain't around.
Got a little while before payday.
Yeah, that's what I meant, though. So payday's not around, so now everything's cool again. All righty. Letter to the editor. How to fix the budget. That's something I probably need to read, Brandon. Anyway, unbelievable. All right. By the way, more on what Ed Tarpley was talking about, because that is important. A lot of people want to change. I just want to ask the question about the district attorneys. Where are they on this? And they look like they're going to sit on the sideline. That's a lot of times that's what happened. That's what Lobby did when they passed the Stelly bill, and that's what the state Republican Party. Really, they sat on the sideline, but they voted for the Stelly bill. The Stelly bill would have never passed. We'd have never had the income tax increase. We had people sit on the sideline. So district attorneys not sitting on the sideline. And Brandon, I can tell you right now, when you don't have, I've been telling this to people since I've been in Lafayette. I told people in Monroe, if you're going to beat or support an issue or tax or whatever it is, if you don't have organization and raise some money and get in the game. You cannot pass or beat a tax or amendment or anything else. If there's not, and by the way, I think what Ed and them are doing is the right thing. If there's a group out there that is against this, and they don't have organization and raise money, this will walk in. This will not even be a problem at all. This will win with 78% of the vote. And that's just the way everything works. If you got a tax in your area, and all the goody two-shoe chamber types are all for it, and you're not raising money and trying to talk about the differences between why it's a bad thing, you can't beat them, because it takes organization and money and people getting out there to beat anything, or to pass it for that matter. So it's important that people get involved in whatever your issue is of your day or whatever the issue is back in your local area or statewide issue. These constitutional amendments normally pass. I think the number is somewhere around 65 or 70% of constitutional amendments pass. The sad thing about constitutional amendments is most people don't read them. They really don't. And as you go down the constitutional amendment, like if you have 6 or 5, Brandon, number 1 gets the most votes. Number 2 gets a little less votes. Number 3, by the time you get down to the 4th,
people get tired when they get to the 4th and 5th one.
Remember we had 11 one time?
Yeah.
I think the difference in votes from 1 to 11 was about 25% different. People just said, what the heck with that? I don't even know what's on the schedule. So in this case, Ed Tarpley and the group and organization that's organizing this are doing a really good job of getting out, talking to groups. And by the way, Brandon, when you got the right and the left coming together on an issue, it's probably going to be hard to beat.
Pretty rare.
Yeah, pretty rare. That's probably why district attorneys that are against this are saying, you know what, let me just stay out of this.
I think you had more Democrats listening to the show during the time Ed Tarpley was here than you ever had. Looking at Twitter, seeing Democrats that were liking the fact that he was on your show.
Democrats loving the Moon Griffon show. You don't see that just every day, do you?
Yes.
And they're the same ones that are writing about Medicaid. This is so awesome. As me and Brett Geymann barely hang in there to pay ours. And really, it's a deal. Somebody asked me, well, what you going to do next year? I told him I had no idea. I said, no clue. I don't know what mine is yet. I hadn't heard. I don't think I'm going to hear to somewhere around October 1st what my new premiums are going to be. Mm-hmm. Brett came in at a different time. I think his renewals now, mine's like the first of the year, so I hadn't gotten anything yet. Be curious to see what I got to pay extra so people can have free Medicaid. As the governor goes out bragging this is economic development. That's what blows my mind. And the Advocate, Elizabeth Chris wrote the story. Headline, Louisiana assured rate drops dramatically after Medicaid expansion. Survey finds. Survey is from LSU. Survey is from government. For government, by government, to impress people about government. That's say anything you want. That's the only way to put it. Really, it's the only way to put it. So, all that stuff like that, when they're tweeting and putting that out there in social media, y'all go ahead and buy into what the Advocate puts on. Go ahead and buy into it, and you see right now it's a losing proposition in the long run, and it's going to devastate people like me because we're the ones paying for it. They just keep jacking ours up. And look, there's people out there listening to me. You notice, Brandon, we got a congressional election that's, I think, less than 80 days away. Nobody's talking about Obamacare. Nobody. Nobody's talking about the devastation of Obamacare. What happened to that issue? I know President Trump's done some things to kind of slow down the mess that's been created. But nobody's talking about it like they did. Nobody. And Democrats were going to run on it, but they can't run on it because for the first time the costs hadn't jacked up. But it will jack up again, trust me. It's just a short-lived deal, and it will be jacked up. By the way, did y'all see this? In New Orleans, Mayor LaToya Cantrell had a news conference. And you remember the Sewage and Water Board that was under Mitch Landrieu. And we had a 6-inch rain that flooded the city. And Mitch Landrieu could not save the city from flooding, but yet he's going to be the next president of the United States. Cantrell, according to Cantrell, she accepted the resignation of 3 deputy director positions. She directed that they leave and resign, and they did. Why would you replace the people that Mitch Landrieu put in there? Who's going to be the next president of the United States? Who wants to? Brandon, think about that. Why would you replace these 3 brainiacs who couldn't protect the city from a 6-inch rain, why would you get rid of somebody the great Mitch Landrieu put there, who, by the way, gets rid of statues and writes books about racism so black votes can be fooled again to vote for him? But all of a sudden, this new mayor comes in and says, maybe we need to get rid of Mitch Landrieu's people on this board. And she did. Now, look, I don't think this lady's going to be any kind of good mayor at all, but look at Mitch Landrieu. He was a horrendous mayor. Crime's up. Jobs are down. You know, and he was horrible. Absolutely one of the worst mayors in the country. The killing, the shootings, and everything that has gone on. And then this sewage and water board has been a joke before Katrina and since Katrina. They had money coming out to fix things and never fixed it. You know? It's an amazing thing to continue to watch. But I can't believe that you would get rid of some people that Mitch Landrieu helped get there. You know, it's just a guy wants to be president of the United States. That's amazing. A guy that can brag about what he did for New Orleans. He couldn't brag about what he did for anything. By the way, Louisiana parents, taxpayers want honest grades for our schools. Officials should calm down. You know what's amazing? 57. Told y'all this many times. What does real school and education reform look like? I've never seen it in my life. We're looking at grades. We're looking at schools being still at the bottom. Nothing ever changes. Yet we do education reform about every 3 or 4 or 5 years. We can't get the grades right. Teachers, they would come next year, teachers pay raises. And by the way, I don't think it's the teachers. I think it's the system. And I think even though they tell us they change things, they never really do. They make it harder for teachers. They make it harder for teachers. They may put more paperwork on teachers. The teachers got to get grades this and grades that. Teachers have to do this and do that. Our education system is hung around the bottom for the longest. And I'll tell you what part of that is, but I can't convince Bell Edwards and the big government people in our state that we need to change our state. If you took this state and made it the friendliest business state in the country, it would stop out migration. It would keep our best and brightest. People wouldn't have to leave in their 40s and 50s to continue to work. Okay? The kids that were leaving would stay here. They would get married. They'd have babies. We would have a better graded student going to school, which means our test scores would go higher. We would get off the bottom. All for the simple reason of making this state the number one business climate in the country. It would change poverty. It would change a lot of things, and we have no idea how to do it. We have no clue. That's what frustrates me. So education's not going to change because your best and brightest are leaving, taking away students that also will be the best and brightest. The people that stand here we're aiming to get as many poor people as we can hooked on Bell Edwards' Medicaid. And we calling that victory. You ever hear Bell Edwards talk about education? With the exception of raising taxes for higher ed. Have you ever heard him talk about education? No. I give him that. He's not one of the ones saying he reformed it because he didn't. But he's not even doing anything about it because if he doesn't do something about the climate and the business climate here, it's not going to change education. We're not going to fix roads. We're not going to fix our pension system. We're not going to have enough money for universities. None of that can be fixed until we make sure we get the business climate right. None of it. Go on and dump all the money. Take all the Medicaid money and all the federal money you want to. You're setting yourself up for failure is what you're doing. I think Edwards has set us back 20 years. 10 for sure, or maybe 20. With no end in sight. Folks, have y'all ever seen education reform? If you have in this state, please let me know. I want to go look at it. I want to see it. I want to touch it. I want to feel it. Because I've never seen it in my life. Take a break. Open forum line for you, 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. We'll be right back. Hi, y'all. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show trying to stop the Bell Edwards train for setting us back another year every day. Unbelievable. And I'm right. And they know I'm right. That's why they're fighting it. Anyway, great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. Yes, I never hear anybody talk about education reform that really meant it. I don't think anybody in this audience can tell me about education reform. If you can, please tell me the results. Tell me where it really happened. I never see it in Louisiana. Somebody just wrote in, unfortunately, education in Louisiana isn't about education. It's about money, power, and votes. And the person that sent this to me, his name is Eminem, and he's right. Education reform is money, period. Look at, I'm just telling y'all what it is. Education reform is money. It's not what you think it is. And by the way, I'm not cutting one teacher because they're never involved in it. They're only involved in actually having to do the teaching. Education reform is we put more money in the system, now watch it go. Oh, we got more money from the federal government. Same thing with healthcare reform from Bill Edwards. It's about getting Medicaid dollars. We're getting them dollars we should be getting. Yeah, you setting us back. You setting up where you had so many people that was on private insurance that got on Medicaid because it didn't cost them nothing. We don't talk about that. We don't talk about education reform. We talk about it. We do nothing about it. And to me, that's a problem. You know, they worried about how they grade in schools, how we grade in teachers. Why should it matter? By the way, one other thing I wanted to let people know. I wanted to thank Lafayette Kiwanis Club, Brandon. They always select a queen. You know how everybody around the state has jamborees, and they have them at the universities, a big deal. They bring in, I don't know, Brandon, 8, 10, 12 teams. They play 6 games. Yeah, but
there's only one Kiwanis jamboree here in Lafayette. Well,
I know that, but I said everybody has a jam.
No, I know.
There's a Bayou Jam in Monroe. Yeah, there's one. What I'm saying is the one here is Kiwanis, and it's really big. And they elected my daughter Maddie. Y'all heard me talk about Maddie. Maddie Griffon is the Kiwanis Queen this year. So on today they got an event they're going to introduce her. I'll be there at the Petroleum Club, and then on Thursday and Friday she actually gets to go out and they announce it between the football games as the Kiwanis Queen. So it is a big deal. Mm-hmm. And everybody last night I was at a deal with the Meet the Cougars, and everybody saw the pictures on the Facebook and everything that was going around. Tanya must have had 250 people respond on her Facebook last night from watching Maddie. Somebody asked me, boy, since y'all moved here, have you ever dreamed of what happened with Maddie Pam Begno? Of course, I love Pam. And I said, no, Pam. I said, when we moved here, we knew we moved for the right reason. Mm-hmm. We knew the Lord had moved us. We knew we did the right thing. And for Maddie and for all of us, it's been a blessing. But this makes it happen. This makes it a lot of fun when you see Maddie and that big smile.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Queen Maddie.
Yeah, Queen Maddie. That's right. So now I got 2 queens at the house. All right, let's go to Larry Magnolia Crossing. How you doing, Larry?
Hey, partner, how you doing?
Doing fine, sir. By the way, she was not queen of the Mud Festival. I'm just saying.
Well, you know, I've been praying for her, so it might be answer my prayer that she's got to answer queen down there.
I'm telling you what she did, and we're very grateful to the Kiwanis Club and giving her the opportunity. She's all smiles, man. She did. Let me tell you what. I don't know how many people are going to be at the Jamboree the next Thursday and Friday at the Raging Cajun Stadium at UL. But I will tell you this, 80% of them will be because Maddie told them. She had told everybody. I told the Kiwanis Club, I said, y'all don't have a clue. If you got the biggest number, Maddie's telling everybody. And she's asking everybody to come see her. I'm not making that up, Larry. She has asked everybody. Hold your thought, Larry. Brandon said I was long-winded for the first time ever. And so we will take a break. We'll get you on the flip side. Be cool. Jade and Lafayette, that can't be the only Jade that I know. Who knows? Anyway, we got to take a break. We'll be right back. The Moon Griffon Show, 844-766-6607. Hickson has a hotline. Be right back. Okay. Hi, hello. Welcome back. Moon Griffon Show. Great to have you with us. 844-766-6607. Brandon, that was long.
Yeah.
I got caught this time with the bookkeeper. I'm blaming her. Remember, I usually blame the salespeople.
I thought you'd blame the food that was put out there because I saw you eating.
We always eat up here. That's unfortunate. All right. We do have the Trump tweet parody song we're going to play for you. I want to play it. It's on my Facebook right now, Moon Griffon, but let's take a couple calls for it. All right, Larry, I had you on. Go ahead and go back. Let's start all over. Go.
Okay, well, congratulations on Maddie.
Thank you.
But I got a son and 3 grandsons that out-migrated to North Dakota doing pipeline work.
Wow. Plenty of work.
And they kind of talked to the head people up there as they're moving along and said, you know, if we happen to run out of work or get through, do we need to start kind of shopping our resumes? He said, no, son. All 4 of y'all are going to Midland, Texas.
Yeah, a lot of people over there right now.
And so, you know, and it hurts me because, you know, that my son and 3 grandsons I don't get to see very often. But anyhow, something else negative. I heard so much negative talk about Jim Beam. I switched my adult beverages to Jack Daniels.
If I was drinking Jim Beam, I'd quit drinking Jim. Hey, the problem is you still got people drinking the Jim Beam Kool-Aid when they read that crap. I mean, he's so far off. He's so far off. I quit. If I was drinking Jim Beam, I'd quit drinking it too just because of him. I think that's hilarious, man. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you, both. Have a great day.
Appreciate the call. Oh, man, that's funny. I'm sorry, that's funny. All righty, let's go to phone lines. Jade in Lafayette. How you doing, Jade?
I'm doing good, Moon. How are you doing?
Doing fine, sir.
So I'm actually out of Abbeville. I just happen to be in Lafayette, but so this is the first time I actually call in. But you know, you were talking about school reform, and
yes, sir.
My wife and I have been reading a book every night by Matthew Kelly. I don't know if you're familiar with him, but the book's called Building Better Families, and this section we read last night put in perfect perspective of what our school system looks like and where it should be and where it's not. You know, back in the day when I went to school, the teachers were able to help build character in students, you know, and help guide students and help mold students and bring out the best in them. Nowadays, you know, we're so focused on test scores. We're so focused on passing a test that means nothing in the real world. It truly means nothing. Without that character building that's not there right now, without the discipline in schools that's not there right now, my kids are never going to go to public school or even private schools because they're so focused on things that aren't as important as building that person individually up as a good person. And it really pains me to see everything that's going on. It's sad. It truly is.
Well, I'm just telling you that when I think of tax reform, I think of education changing, going in another direction, and then showing results. Our tax reform in our state, not tax reform, but school reform, our education reform in our state has changed directions never to move the needle. Never. And what they end up doing with school reform, it's always a new tax or more money, or we're starting these new programs. Nothing changes. If nothing changes to the positive, it's not school reform. If it changes to the negatives, it was an absolutely disaster to go in that direction.
Exactly. And look, if you don't give the teachers the capability to actually teach and to instruct and to mold and to do what they signed up for, you know, I mean, they don't get paid much. And you're right. You know, maybe a salary increase may help them live with the pains that they have to suffer by the administrations that are putting this on them and the policies that are put on them. But, I mean, honestly, if you ask a teacher, if you could be happy in your job, would you be happy with your pay? And they probably say, yeah, but the fact that they're so frustrated, I bet you I could bet money on it that a pay increase still ain't going to help them because they're not happy with what they're doing because they don't have the ability to do what they were educated to do.
Well, I'm going to say this. I would never blame teachers. There's a lot of good teachers, but the system is not in this change, and we hear all this stuff about school reform, and we're going to do grades on the school, then we're going to grade the teachers, and we're going to grade the teachers, the schools, and all that stuff, and I see us be 49th, 50th, 50th, 49th, 49th, 50th. And I'm going to tell you one of the problems we're having. That's why I keep going back to this, Jay. You may not can put it together like I can. It's not that you can't, because you may not see it like me. If we don't change what happens in this state with jobs and businesses, and everything is Medicaid, and everything is earned income tax credit, and we're making it easy to be poor, the students you're going to have here, that's what's going to happen. And what's going to happen is the best and brightest keep leaving. Those keep the grade point average up. And they're leaving in droves, and they've been leaving this state for a long time, and yet the governor comes along, the co-governorship didn't work, they don't concentrate on jobs and businesses. Everything is how much money can I get out of the citizens so we can keep everything going in the exact same direction. Bell Edwards and Darden have changed nothing in this state. Well, we balanced the budget, yeah, $6.3 billion out of the taxpayers' pockets, and you balance the budget for another year or two, then we're going to have budget deficits again. I'm telling you, we need radical change to help our schools. We need to help our people have jobs here. Then you keep the best and brightest. We got to
I completely agree with you.
Yeah, I mean, it goes together, but the other one, I'm just telling you, you keep losing people that care about education to go get jobs. They putting their kids at school in Texas, or they send them out at college to go somewhere else, or when they come out of college, there's no jobs here, they got to leave. You're screwed. I mean, the whole state, we're just running into, we're chasing our tail, and we're happy about it. We think if we speed up the dog, this is the problem with chasing the tail, Brandon, watch this. We make the dog go even faster after the tail, we think he's going to catch the tail. He never catches the tail. He keeps chasing faster, faster, faster. More money, more money, more money. It never changes. It's frustrating to me.
No, I agree. And I'll tell you what, it does have to change at the top, but also you gotta be able to create free thinkers. If you don't create free thinkers, they're going to think just like the ones at the top, and it will always be the same. I had a pretty smart dog. He learned to sit down and catch his tail instead of chase it. So,
Well, you know what, though? we need a smart dog politician, and that we don't have that in the governor's mansion, because what you have is Jay Darden is a big government leftist. Julie Stoke, big government leftist, running for Secretary of State. Bel Air was big government leftist. I'm watching the results. The only thing they talk about is raising taxes, fixing government. Government doesn't need to be fixed. We need to fix the private sector and let government come along behind the private sector. They really believe that the government drives the private sector. It does. It drives the private sector out of the state, and it drives the private sector nuts. But it doesn't drive the private sector anything else. Got to run. Next call for the break. Monroe we go. Which about... Oh, we were going to Tammy and Monroe. We were going to be nice to Tammy.
Yeah.
So again, Brandon, let's do this. Mm-hmm. Can we play a little Trump parody? Trump tweeted. You can get this on my Facebook. Right now? Griffon. Absolutely. And then we're going to go to the break. Okay. Here it is, folks. Listen.